and linking up to gender issues. He's looking at how women leaders are looked at, which language is used for them, how are they covered, and what aspect can one learn from that language. Yeah. And he's looking at the men. Yeah, the media coverage of the men is a bit on the softer side. The ladies are covered on it's a bit harsh. Yeah. So he's asking that if we continue this language, are we going to produce leaders? Which language should we actually use? Yeah. Okay. The first paper, you said I scanned through. Yeah. Education as a catalyst to girls. He's looking at the role of extracurricular activities in enhancing girls and young women leadership. Okay, he's looking at some of the type of games which we can introduce girls to, which can enhance their leadership status, can make them become better leaders. What you're being told is that what type of leadership could you pick in a team? You are playing football, you have identified your game, you are a netballer and the rest. As you continue with that, can you pick up some things which can help you in leadership like creativity, resilience, good communication, team spirit, all those things which you've picked? Can you move on with them up to the next level? Yeah, so that is what I pick up. The only link is that we need to look at maybe the aspect of mentorship. Even in sports, there is the aspect of mentorship. So can we carry this mentorship also to the girls, those who want to become leaders, so that they can be mentored, just like the sport. Look at the Spanish team. They're already in the field at a very young age, and then they become very good footballers. Can we follow this trend and get it also so that our girls can also become good leaders through mentorship, through those games? The games becomes part of their mentorship program, part of their development into good leadership. So that is what the first paper is looking, the second paper is looking at. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nam. Please pass it to...
So very short reflection, or yes? Yeah. So I was very interested in reading both papers, although they were really quite different. I was very struck by the representation of women in media in Nigeria. I found that quite a grim picture that showed really that there's still a lot that we can do, but it also gave a positive outlook on what we can actually do to better represent women in leadership in media and pop culture. But what really spoke to me was the second paper on extracurricular activities and how that can play a huge role in girls' empowerment and development for their whole life. It's basically giving them the tools at an early age to then take ownership of their own life and be confident in their agency and their power to then lead. So that really spoke to me as a professional working in education in UNICEF, focusing on schools and all that's around schools. And what I really took from that paper also is that need to really systematize that kind of those kinds of opportunities for girls to develop those skills. These are extracurricular activities, but ideally we would want them to be in the system, in the curriculum themselves, to really reach systematically both girls and boys to enhance their leadership as well. So that's a very quick reflection. Also, a second reflection, was that this session is around women leadership and empowerment. And what I found really, really great to see is those two female researchers. And I think when we speak of leadership, it's also about women being in thought leadership and leading on research and evidence generation, because that gives us the tools to then act. So, yeah, that was very, very good for me to see.
Thank you very much. I've picked up systemizing the solutions. Like if it's extracurricular activity, they need to be systemized. It does not have to be a one-time opportunity or a one-year opportunity. Leadership is a continued process, and we need to systemize that. What I picked from her is mentorship. Taking mentorship seriously, and looking at your profile, I will understand where you're coming from. Working with students and seeing them transition from school. Some just get out and they don't know what to do with themselves. They want to be in those leadership positions, but they do not know what to do. So it's nice points that we're picking up. Not yet. Great. You know, this was supposed to be very short, but I'm very happy that we are having more time to discuss. Here, kindly give us a briefing on your thoughts on the two papers.
Thank you very much, everyone. First of all, thank you for allowing me to be part of the discussion. I read the two papers with interest, and like my colleagues said, the second paper, which is Gender and Leadership Crisis, Representation of Professional Women in Mainstream Media in Nigeria. What I thought after reading, or as I was reading, I was seeing the role of media as a gender lens. They're looking at media in terms of the social construction of gender. Who is a woman, and what is she supposed to do, and how is this lady supposed to lead? So there's quite a number of biased languages that I looked at. That is characteristic of patriarchal society as Africa, as we know. And I looked at the discourse that she was quoting, and it indeed sheds light on the broader society attitude towards gender or towards women in leadership positions. And for me, it's not about the media alone. It's about the patriarchal society that we live in. These people who are writing are men, and they live in a society, in an African society. So it's a portrayal of their attitude. It's not different. So we see a negative patriarchy, family relations, sexuality, appearance, gender restriction. And I don't think they indeed were doing it on purpose to shame or do what, but it's who they are as people. And interestingly, when I was looking at this paper, it reminded me of my favorite Nigerian writer, Wole Soyinka, in his play, The Lion and the Jewel. If any of you read The Lion and the Jewel, you realize that Sidi, the jewel of Nigeria, is portrayed as an innocent, naive girl who is very vulnerable to men, including Baloka, who is the king. And indeed, she ends up being raped, might say. So that is media as well. That is writing. And this man, who is Wole Soyinka, is portraying exactly what happens in society, in the African society. So basically, the media, the writers, we would say that he who holds the pen, who writes the story, writes his own way. So if we have many women in male-dominated professions, if women can write their own stories, then that they would tell a different story. But this is men writing the story of women and then making it, of course, the way they want to be. That's the first one. Then the second paper, which is about, just did a bit of using extracurricular activities in education. Very quickly, as I read, I narrated to our Tuseme. The Tuseme is an approach to learning and teaching that uses play, that uses drama, games, sports, any media of communication that is not reading and writing. And it teaches many things. Actually, it teaches us the 21st century skills, which is critical thinking, which is creativity, which is collaboration, which is communication. So, for instance, if you talk about football, football will teach you discipline, will teach you resilience, will teach you to collaborate. So many games will teach you those kinds of things. So I related the extracurricular activities that are games and related them to anything to do with enjoyment through learning, which teaches us so many things. But most importantly, the 21st century skills. And I really agree with the writers that the 21st century skills can be taught through extracurricular activities. I submit. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate those remarks. We are good to go. We are good to go. We're good to go. Just before we start off, I like that she had a reference to a story. I am learning the art of storytelling. I probably should have learned in school, but I'm learning it now. So let me tell you a brief personal story about extracurricular activities versus education and how life generally plays out. I'm certain enough of us are Kenyans and we understand the Kenyan education system. So I went to a private primary school. We know what happens at private primary schools. You're pampered and you're encouraged and you're told you're the best and you're told you can shine and, you know, you're the star and you're doing really well. Then typical of a good performer in primary, you go to a public secondary school. It's torture. It was horrible. I had the worst I still have nightmares about high school. Because once you get to high school, it's a different crowd, you know? And you're coming from a private primary school. You are reading privilege. You know those of us who have big foreheads, they can almost write privilege on your forehead. But you know you're not cognizant to it. It's just what your parents are guiding you through. And true to it, it is a privilege. But you don't know it's a privilege when you're going through it until you get to high school. Then the girls at high school are from tough backgrounds and who do you think you are? You're this cool kid, you're coming from a private institution, you think you can tell us what to do. And I got scared and I shrunk. Someone who loved arts, I was out in the field playing soccer because soccer was not for cool kids and I did not want to be associated with being a cool kid. But that I didn't like, I hate running. I hate the roughness of the game. Even now, I don't even have a favorite football team. But I was out there playing because I wanted to fit in and I wanted to shed off the brand of a cool kid. I had to survive. I played basketball, at least that I enjoyed. I enjoyed basketball a little bit because I'm tall and I had the advantage and I was winning. So that made me love the game. But I lost a side of me that I'm now trying to learn back. The art of expressing yourself, the art of bright colors, the art of, speaking up. That is what I am good at. That is what I used to be good at. That is what I used to thrive at. But I lost that side of me because certain extracurricular activities in high school were portrayed as cool kid activities, right? But if we can change a narrative, someone else's story could be different. It took me another 10 years to get back to myself. When my colleagues left high school and went straight into what they wanted to do, I didn't know what I wanted to do because I was confused. I wanted to fit in, but what I have chosen, I'm not going to play soccer in campus. I don't like math. I don't like sciences. I'm so frustrated. It's just something that takes an absolute different direction if you follow people's personal stories. So I was really happy to read that paper and how that transition can help more young women find themselves, especially in positions of leadership. So I'm very excited about that. Like Antonia has said, the media is just a reflection of what society is. They write our stories. They look at what we are and how we exist, and they write those stories. If there's patriarchy in that language, it's because that patriarchy is also perpetrated in our society as is. So I'm going to be giving the opportunity to Esther. Are we ready for Esther? I guess not yet. Sorry? Yes, Esther. Esther should be presenting the first paper, Esther Nakwire. Actually, shift it to this side. Everyone else is on this side. You know, this session was supposed to be done in 1.5 hours. In fact, I had been asked to give everyone 5 minutes to speak. And we were not going to get to know each other. I have some backbenchers who came in last. I'm going to give them an opportunity to tell us their name and their organization.
I'm sorry, I'm Dorothy Mwaluko, a retired teacher, but board member of FAWE Tanzania chapter.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Sorry for walking in late. I sat in the next room for long enough and I'm like, I'm not sure this is what I was coming for. So I kind of tried to recover myself, so thank you for giving me a chance. My name is Joyce Muchena, and I'm very pleased to be here. I work for the Mastercard Foundation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Julie Ngige. Like my friend here, I was on the other room, and then I looked at the program and I realized this is where I belong. I am the founder and editor of Girl Code magazine. One of the things we do is to highlight opportunities, particularly extracurricular activities for girls to thrive in order to become leaders and to have a bright future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If it helps, I was also lost. When I already knew this place, I went into that room thinking I was in this place, and the rooms look identical. Yo, this setup today is showing us things. So anybody else who has had a chance to read the papers and would like to make a commentary? Including our host, Cynthia. She's very clear with her no, so let me move on swiftly. So I don't know if the papers are available for sharing. Are they? Do we have consent to share? We can share. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, man. Yes, Daktari.
Okay, there is an issue with Wendy, the first paper of the education secretaries, the role of extracurriculum. Wendy is raising an issue on women representation in the Zimbabwe population. That despite being 52%, their representation is very low, that even in parliament, I don't know, they are...
Sorry, Daktari, just a second. People are missing out on your wisdom.
Or if they said it? Okay. Yeah, I was just looking at the paper of Wendy on the role of extracurricular activities in enhancing girls and young women leadership. So she's raising an issue on women and political leadership.
No, just feel free to finish.
Okay. She's raising an issue on political representation, which is a big issue. How comes that women are many, but when it comes to representation in parliament, we are just a number, just a few. Zimbabwe, 17%. Kenya is also not so good. Only Rwanda is trying. So the case is, she's given us a case study there. The case is that, can we look at women leadership from the word go? Maybe we give them examples, like for example, growing up in the school, private school, moving to a public school. And as you are growing, you are picking up some concepts, yeah? That is the first paper is talking about this concept. Can we proceed with them and mentor these girls to be leaders so that we can improve on political representation, because that is where decisions are made. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Daktari. Those one and Kenyans, Daktari means doctor, just so we are clear. Yes. So I think we are now set. Esther is ready. She's going to be making a presentation. Oh, great. She's going to be making a presentation on her paper, Gender and Leadership Crisis, Representation of Professional Women in Mainstream Media in Nigeria. It's presented by Esther. Kaire, Department of English and Literary Studies, Faculty of Arts, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and Gloria Nwandu Ozo, Department of Logistics and Literary Studies, School of Information and Social Studies, the Technical University of Kenya. I just saw University of Nigeria, Nsukka. It's one of my dream to go places just because Chimamanda writes a lot about it. So I have a whole picture of how the town looks like and the campus. So welcome Esther and Gloria to make a presentation on your paper.
Department of Linguistics and Literary Studies, School of Information and Social Studies, the Technical University of Kenya. The title of our paper is Gender and Leadership Crisis. Representation. Professional women in mainstream media in Nigeria. Okay, next slide. Okay, study on this on gender and leadership revealed that in Nigeria, women face a lot of gender disparity and employment due to the wrong perception of women in the society. And sometimes women find it difficult to attain leadership positions in organizations simply because they are women, and also because they have to seek spousal approval and support. And also it depends on their circumstances. Most times women, when they go on maternity leaves, all of these circumstances, having children, it inhibits their progress in their profession. We also have lack of mentorship. Some women who have attained the highest level in their profession most times do not share the blueprint of how they got to where they are. So mentorship, lack of mentorship is also a very huge challenge in professional heights. Okay, so we also have this idea that there are some professions that aren't fit for women. For instance, the teaching profession is said to be a feminine profession, where women should just be teachers. You know, women aren't fit to be engineers. Women are fit to be in the military, also in pharmacy, you know, in law, medicine. All these areas is said to be male dominated. Just have very few women. In fact, in STEM, according to reports, we have 22 girls compared to boys who are 78. So you see this disparity because the few women are not fit to be in such position. Okay, and we also have another challenge, which is religious and cultural inhibitions that stop women from engaging in school areas like sports. For instance, in Nigeria, in northern Nigeria, we have the Sharia law, which inhibits women from joining in this game that is reserved, as they say, for men. So women do not grow professionally in that regard in most cases. So the objective of this study is to, one, interrogate the issues of gender and leadership crisis in Nigeria by focusing on the representation of professional women in the mainstream media, and also to examine the pivotal role of the Nigerian mainstream media in promoting gender equality in education, as it highlights the accomplishments of selected professional women in male-dominated professions. And thirdly, to evaluate language use during women identity construction in the media, and to look at the cultural influence on women's representation and the message it conveys about their leadership abilities. So in all of this, women, despite the challenges we face to climb to the upper echelon of our professions, some women are actually breaking through. But how are they represented? As the media actually shining a spotlight on them so that young girls can also learn and also aspire to be like them. Okay, what is the role of the media in all of this? The mainstream media, which includes the radio, television, and newspaper, influence a large number of people and are likely to represent generally accepted beliefs and opinions. While women are shown on TV programs, mainly doing, domestic duties, the media show women to do domestic duties, house chores, care for the babies, even our typical home movies. If you watch Nigerian Nollywood movies, they project women as, stay at home, dress nicely, wait for the husband to come back, present their food to them. And why the men are projected or are portrayed to go out there to work and come home, but the women themselves don't work. They see them as just stay at home. They just stay at home. They prepare. They clean the house. That is all they are about. They portray men as engineers, managers in offices. This is what the whole movie usually portray. And sometimes one begins to see this as a norm that women aren't supposed to be professionals. Again, the Nigerian media does not give women enough opportunities to air their opinions in critical matters in the country, like in political, economic, technological, and in commercial views. So when there are critical issues like this, what women say are not really taken into account, unlike what men say. Okay? All right. And we also have the media coverage of female executive is usually more concerned about their private lives. Sometimes when they are projected or when they are talked about, they're talking about their private lives, their kids, their husbands. They don't talk about their professional life, how they are impacting the society. Most times they talk about things, they're just their private lives. So what scandals they have and stuff like that. So, but what do we intend to do? We're using the discourse analysis to as a tool to analyze the media content, because it takes into account the meaning
Can anybody hear me? All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, good evening. I understand we're coming from different time zones. Wendy Muzite is my name, and I am a student at the Zimbabwe Open University, currently studying development studies. And also, I am a volunteer at the Forum for African Women Educationalists, Zimbabwe chapter. I'm going to be presenting a topic which I found really interesting because I benefited from that. I was part of the schools that were trained on the Tuseme framework way back into time, and that is what motivated this research. So the topic is the role of extracurricular activities in enhancing girls and young women leadership skills post-COVID-19, evidence from Zimbabwe. The paper basically was interrogating the role of extracurricular activities in building girls and young women leadership capacity post-COVID-19. During the COVID-19 period, a lot of girls in Zimbabwe dropped out of school, while some got into child marriages, widening the inequality and access to education. And there was a series of health and economic crises that were feeding on each other, affecting the children's ability to stay in school, especially girls. So I'm going to move to the next slide. I was informed that I have only 10 minutes and I have a lot of slides. So the keywords that I'm going to be using are extracurricular, which is an activity at school or college pursued in addition to the normal course of study. Then education, the process of receiving or giving systematic instruction, especially at school or university level. Leadership, the action of leading a whole group or an organization. Then girls, female children or adolescents. The purpose of this paper was to explore the impact of extracurricular activities in enhancing the leadership skills of girls and young women in Zimbabwe, especially the post-COVID-19 period, shedding light on how participation in extracurricular activities can act as a catalyst for girls and young women to take up leadership positions in various spheres of their society. The paper also focused on how participation in extracurricular activities by girls could break social barriers associated with inhibiting or discouraging girls from taking up leadership positions. The objectives were to identify the challenges and barriers faced by girls and young women in taking up leadership positions and exploring the potential benefits of promoting girls' participation in extracurricular activities. Also, to identify the key extracurricular activities that are likely to enhance the leadership skills of girls and young women and barriers that inhibit their participation, and propose strategies and recommendations for the enhancement of girls and young women's leadership capacity through extracurricular activities. So, in Zimbabwe, the background, like so many other countries in Africa and the world over, Zimbabwe has faced significant challenges in promoting gender equality and women's empowerment. Sorry, my apologies. All right. The majority of dropouts between 2017 and 2021 at secondary level of education were females, constitution to a very large percentage of all secondary dropouts in 2021. So there was a growing recognition of the importance of gender equality and female empowerment in achieving sustainable development goals. And in so many societies, women and girls face significant challenges to participation in leadership decision-making roles. Although Zimbabwe has made some strides in promoting gender equality and women's empowerment, there's still a long way to go. Girls and young women in Zimbabwe still face numerous challenges that hinder their leadership participation in leadership roles. So for the findings, the study found out that extracurricular activities do play a significant role in enhancing leadership skills of girls and young women. Girls and young women participated in extracurricular activities more likely to develop communication skills, teamwork, and problem-solving skills. However, the study also identified several barriers that hinder girls and young women from participating in extracurricular activities. These barriers included limited resources, cultural norms and practices, and lack of exposure to available activities. So young women and girls are more likely to drop out of primary school due to absenteeism, financial constraints, exploitation, and sometimes no access for young women living with special needs. More females than males are likely to drop out of high school as a result of expulsion during child marriages, early pregnancies. So we noticed that between 2021 and 2020, the highest proportions of female secondary school learners dropped out of school as a result of expulsion. Overall, more women and girls in particular drop out of school as a result of early marriages and pregnancies. And this was a whooping 34.74%. The second highest proportion, 36.93% of secondary school learners absconded school, whilst second highest proportions of the female counterparts dropped out of school because they got married. And it is also important to note that the third highest proportion of secondary female dropouts in school, the majority of them were those that did not take part or showed no interest at all on extracurricular activities. And it also brought back the fact that extracurricular activities play a very crucial role in preparing young women when it comes to leadership positions and skills. Extracurricular activities equip girls with skills development. Quantitative data from various studies conducted demonstrated that extracurricular activities impacted a whole lot of young women and girls in terms of their aspiration. And also surveys conducted also made us realize that those girls that participated in extracurricular activities would have a high and intelligent markup in terms And this was due to participating in online extra activities, which resulted in putting up their technological proficiency. And can play soccer and girls can play netball. That is what is available in majority of the schools. A diverse range of extra curricular activities that girls can choose from. I've noticed that people are very much confident in things that they select to do themselves because they know that I want to do this, I can do this, and they can do that. And also, schools ought to provide inclusive and equal opportunities for all students. Majority of the resources that come in schools are often catering for activities that are partaken by boys, and for girls, it's not something that's really supported. I would find that in high school, when the soccer team proceeded to the next stage, there were celebrations, they would get lifted up, they got new uniforms, they got everything. But when the netball team also did the same, well, we were girls. It wasn't much to be paid attention on because, well, it's a game that you are supposed to play. So special attention is often given to boys. And this has to stop. There are so many in-school programming that are being done by different organizations in schools. So schools must work together with such stakeholders that fund some activities that give special attention to girls. Because at times we would be told that they do not have the funds to fund both teams. So they were going with the team that they knew was likely to proceed. Government should also offer leadership training and mentorship programs tailored specifically for girls and young women in schools. Our curriculum does not exactly incentivize teachers when it comes to extracurricular activities. So now it becomes a challenge because some of them just get deserted and you now don't get tailor-made activities for girls in school. So there's also need to use the alumni networks in schools, mentorship programs, all that can be set to benefit these young women and girls. There is need for collective collaboration to develop innovative extracurricular activities focused on leadership development and mentorship skills to enhance opportunities for students. During our time, we had Tuseme. I've been noticing that other schools now have the Nanga program. And
Wendy,
during action planning,
up,
it's important for organizations to make use of this collaborative partnership and also identify young women and girls who have the leadership skills and potentials so that we can enhance this for girls. I have written a lot of recommendations. I would also be very much interested, maybe after this presentation, to just hear from people that went through the paper and give also recommendations on what they think. So because of my time, thank you so much for listening. Over to you.
Thank you so much, and I'm so sorry I had to cut you short. We were supposed to be out of here 10 minutes ago, but I bargained for us to get an extra 10 minutes. So I'm just going to be very, very quick with the questions. To each discussant, I'm going to pass one question. Kindly answer it as briefly and as brilliantly as you can so that people will have a deeper insight of the paper because you have already been through it. So my first question goes to Dr. Ann. What can be done to address lack of inclusivity and gender disparity in decision-making, looking at the African context?
Thank you, the two presenters, and thank you, the moderator. What can be done to include?
What can be done to address lack of inclusivity and gender disparity in decision-making, looking at the African context?
Okay, we can look at it from different perspectives. We can look at it in terms of the curriculum. At lunchtime, there was a talk on inclusive curriculum, a curriculum which takes care of all aspects of gender. we can look at it also in terms of engaging more with the stakeholders. Who are the partners? Who are the stakeholders here? So if we work with the stakeholders and collaborators and we put all our heads together, then we can have an inclusive society, including the media, which has been talked about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anne. My second question goes to Michelle. What is the significance of media representation as a catalyst for change and its influence on inspiring women to pursue different careers? I'm sorry I am reading it so fast because I know the person who gave me this time is about to walk through that door. What is the significance of media representation as a catalyst for change and its influence on inspiring women?
Well, answering that question in 1 minute is quite a challenge.
Take your time, I can stall her.
So how is media representation a catalyst for change? Is that?
Yes, how can it be a catalyst for change, especially in terms of inspiring women? This is young women who are intending to pursue different careers.
Well, I think in a time where social media and access to media now is so widespread and it's so in our faces every day, you know, what is represented in media is so important. It's so influential on young women or girls and adolescent girls' career ambitions and just life plans. So I think using that is probably one of our best tools to address, you know, the limitations that they might see in their ambitions and their skills development. And because my background is maybe more education, I'll go maybe more towards the education side. And Dr. Anne has talked about curriculum, but I think also education happens outside of school, right? We're all convinced of the power of schools here. So maybe looking at what kind of education is you know, being done outside of school, and in a way, having access to media is also a sort of learning for young women and girls. So what is in the media is going to influence the skills, their perception of themselves, and the skills that they can achieve. And also looking at, you know, the girls that don't have access to school or that will probably never go back to school, how can we also build the skills of these young girls? And so really creating those opportunities for them to learn and acquire those skills, and then actually giving them the opportunity to practice those skills. So that means giving them a seat at the table when we discuss programs, when we discuss about reforming curriculums, having them at the table, and as well having them, you know, having the opportunity to practice leadership skills in internships or mentorships and apprenticeships, in that work-based learning as well, where they learn, and that is going to shape their entire life journey in the end. So that's my short answer.
Thank you very much. On to Antonia. Looking at Rwanda, Rwanda is actually still at the top when it comes to representation of women in the parliamentary leadership. So we would like for you to give us an insight based on your current reality. What are other aspects that affect women in leadership other than policies? Because we have policies in Kenya that have not worked. People have policies upon policies that have worked. So other than policies, can we fall back on to help put women into leadership?
Number one is political will, leadership. Leadership is key, understanding that it is important to have women in leadership, to understand that more than half of the population should be involved. That is number one. Number two is to have a population that listens as well. I mean, you have to inculcate a culture whereby what you say is what is being done, a culture of accountability, which means you have to have one vision, and then you have to be accountable to that. And that is what we have seen work. So it's about leadership, accountability at all stages of the, maybe I would say, the local government, the schools, the family, and all that. In short, that's it.
Thank you very much. I love that your answer makes us all accountable as individuals, not as collective. So when you speak of leadership, it's quite general and also applies to individuals. I'm going to take 3 questions or comments. Just 3, either a question or a comment. I see hand 1. The second one, anybody else would like to make 2 and 3? Okay, let's go.
Hi, Julie again. So my comment is mostly on the media, and I'll draw from the 2 presentations. I see when we speak about media, we speak about media from the standpoint, we are not specific with which kind of media. So for me, I think going forward from my experience and from the discussions is that we also need to have media that is that specifically addresses the girls direct. Okay, so like in our case, we talk about menstrual health, and that information is specifically for the girls. And we are not talking to the girls as adults, but it's more of a discussion. So we need inclusive spaces for girls to express themselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Marilyn, mine, I'm not sure if it's a comment. First of all, would she kindly share her research paper, the presenter? I'll be very happy to have it. It does a lot with what I'm doing today. But being in a leadership space for ladies, there's a lot experiencing, personally being a leader. I see a lot of gaps in our communities. I'm from Tanzania. There are a lot of gaps when it comes to empowering young girls. And I think that women who have taken a step ahead should really be in a position to mentor. It's hard because you already have things to manage and look after, but you still have to really mentor and bring up the younger people in the community. There's no way out there will be leaders if we do not devote our time to really hold their hands. I participate in leadership conferences or events, and the table is rounded by 5 men with 1 woman, you know. By the time you give out your comment, it's really, it really doesn't have the value. I'm sorry to say this. Men would only see the issues that have to do with women, like how do you look, how do you what. While there are more factors and issues that need to be brought on the table. So how do we do that? We really need to hold hands of these younger people. So I don't know how this team here would keep helping one another to really encourage and devote a small amount of time to really hold hands of the younger people. So that's with mine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last comment/question.
It's kind of, it has been covered somewhere, but I was also looking at women leaders fighting the association. Like FAWE has formed associations, FAWE, it's looking at sponsoring or supporting this girlhood. But its component, we don't see the leadership part of it being so much emphasized. Apart from when they have the OPs, you find the leadership comes in at that time, but it's not something that is in curricula that has to be disseminated to either schools, right from primary, as we've discussed, second one probably at tertiary for those who could have missed at the lower levels. And then I was looking at the media. Somebody asked, but I wanted to know which kind of the media and what they should publish. Otherwise, I would think of women's activities being published on media, especially for those who are role models, so that it has access to those who may not have them in their communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I can see the rest to get us out. We need to move in back in the meeting. Asante Anna for coming, for being part of this. If you want the papers, she's available. She can share them with you. You can see her and she can send them for you to you on email. Kindly see her so that she can do it on email right away. But Asante Sana, let us all move back to the main building on first floor and let us move quickly. We are the only ones on this side, apparently. Thank you very much. Asante Sana, have a lovely evening.
Education on the African continent is the great equalizer through which persons can bridge social and economic divides in society. Access to education has been a priority area for most African governments in the past couple of decades and a key area of focus for parents. The high interest in education has seen an increase in enrollment numbers of children on the continent. This has led to efforts being put in place to ensure schools are set up in every community, from rural to urban areas, ranging from public to private learning institutions. Whereas there has been a significant increase in the number of learning institutions and enrollment, the quality of education offered has been a challenge in most areas. This is more evident in the higher rate of school dropouts, mostly among girls due to unfavorable learning environments which contribute to poor performance. This is a worrying trend, as education is the fourth Sustainable Development Goal, which aims to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. In response to this, the Forum for African Women Educationalists, FAWE, developed the Centers of Excellence model through which ordinary schools are transformed into gender-responsive schools. FAWE developed this model so that girls excel academically. To achieve this, it was identified they need teachers who are trained to meet their needs and a community of adults who support them. They also need learning materials that portray them in positive and equitable ways in a school environment that is welcoming and conducive for learning. FAWE's Centers of Excellence can be found in Burkina Faso, Chad, Comoros, the Gambia, Guinea, Kenya, Madagascar, Namibia, Rwanda, Tanzania, Togo, Uganda, Zambia, and Zanzibar. Thousands of students have benefited from COEs since the inception in 1999. With the continued support of existing centers of excellence and setup of new ones in new locations, the Forum for African Women Educationalists aims to transform ordinary schools and their surrounding community into environments that are academically, socially, and physically gender responsive. Education on the African continent is the great equalizer through which persons can bridge social and economic divides in society. Access to education has been a priority area for most African governments in the past couple of decades and a key area of focus for parents. The high interest in education has seen an increase in enrollment numbers of children on the continent. This has led to efforts being put in place to ensure schools are set up in every community, from rural to urban areas, ranging from public to private learning institutions. Whereas there has been a significant increase in the number of learning institutions and enrollment, the quality of education offered has been a challenge in most areas. This is more evident in the higher rate of school dropouts, mostly among girls due to unfavorable learning environments which contribute to poor performance. This is a worrying trend, as education is the fourth Sustainable Development Goal, which aims to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. In response to this, the Forum for African Women Educationalists, FAWE, developed the Centers of Excellence model through which ordinary schools are transformed into gender-responsive schools. FAWE developed this model so that girls excel academically. To achieve this, it was identified they need teachers who are trained to meet their needs and a community of adults who support them. They also need learning materials that portray them in positive and equitable ways in a school environment that is welcoming and conducive for learning. FAWE's Centers of Excellence can be found in Burkina Faso, Chad, Comoros, the Gambia, Guinea, Kenya, Madagascar, Namibia, Rwanda, Tanzania, Togo, Uganda, Zambia, and Zanzibar. Thousands of students have benefited from COEs since the inception